My parents arranged me to marry a violent man who laid hands on me and my kids, then helped him kidnap them overseas. So I secretly contacted my ex-husband, and fast forward to today, I got to watch my family's faces as they realized they'd lost everything. I was 29 when my ex-husband David started stalking my family, our kids, and my new husband. He tried to make it seem friendly. A few phone calls, birthday cards, housewarming gifts, but I knew better. And my parents did too. They told me he couldn't handle that I'd moved on with Emre, the handsome Turkish man they arranged for me to marry. I always felt like it was wrong that I got full custody, but then again, I had no choice. My parents said if I didn't get it, they'd pool their money together and take the kids themselves. Plus, Emre was everything me and my parents wanted. Turkish, successful, from a good family. He moved in after 3 months and immediately started establishing rules. No TV during dinner. Kids needed to speak Turkish at home. David's weekend visits became supervised exchanges in parking lots with Emre always present. The American is here, Emre would announce when David arrived. Never his name, just the American. I started noticing David's weird behavior. He'd call at 8 p.m. sharp every night to say goodnight to the kids. When I mentioned Layla's swimming lessons, he'd ask specific questions about who drove her. He offered to take the kids more often, even suggesting family counseling. Classic manipulation, my mother said when I told her. He's trying to confuse the children. It was around this time that the kids grew quieter around Emre. Layla, my 7-year-old, stopped singing in the car. James, 5, wet the bed twice after Emre babysat. Adjustment period, my parents assured me. Children need discipline. Meanwhile, David kept pushing boundaries. He enrolled in a coaching certification for Layla's soccer league. He moved to an apartment just 10 minutes away. He even learned basic Turkish. Obsessive behavior, Emre said, shaking his head. In my country, we'd handle this differently. And TBH, I agreed with him, until our vacation to Lake Tahoe. My parents had insisted we go as a family to celebrate Emre's promotion. David had asked 3 times for the hotel information. For emergencies, he said. I laughed it off. But on the 3rd night, something shifted. Me and Emre were drinking Rocky, while my parents were downstairs in the restaurant. Suddenly, James spilled juice on Emre's laptop bag. I watched Emre's face transform as he grabbed James by the arm and yanked him up. Stupid boy! You ruin everything you touch! James burst into tears. Layla ran over and wrapped her arms around her brother. I want to call Daddy, she sobbed. Please, Mommy, call Daddy. He said to call if we needed him. Please! Something in her voice broke through my fog. I reached for my phone and dialed with trembling hands. As soon as it started ringing, Emre crossed the room and pushed me to the floor. The children need to learn consequences. His grip on my wrist made me gasp. Emre, you're hurting me. You baby them. This is why American children are weak. He squeezed harder. Put them in their room. Now. I looked at my baby's terrified faces and something inside me snapped. The slap came fast. My cheek burned as I stumbled backward. The kids screamed. You want to embarrass me? Call your ex-husband like a W word? He hissed. Suddenly, the hotel room door burst open. My parents rushed in from the restaurant. What's this noise? My father demanded. Your daughter is calling her ex-husband. Emre spat. My dad's face hardened. Zainab, give me that phone. Now. My mom turned to the kids. Children, go to your room. But he hit. One call to our lawyer. My mom interrupted. That's all it takes. There I was, sitting in the room with my crying kids when we heard it. A pounding on the door that made us all freeze. Zainab, open up! I instantly knew it was David. My heart hammered as David's voice echoed through the door. Emre's face darkened and he strode toward the entrance. My father moved to block me while my mother positioned herself between the children and the door. Don't you dare let him in! My mother hissed. The pounding continued. I know you're in there. I got a call. My stomach dropped. The call. It must have connected for a few seconds before Emre knocked the phone away. David heard something. Emre yanked the door open. What do you want? David stood there in jeans and a wrinkled t-shirt, clearly having rushed here. His eyes swept the room, taking in my position on the floor, my reddened cheek. The children huddled in the corner. Daddy! James broke free from my mother's grasp and ran toward him. Emre's hand shot out, grabbing James by the collar and yanking him backward. The fabric stretched tight against my son's throat as he gasped. David stepped forward. Let him go. He's my stepson. I'll discipline him as I see fit. Emre's grip tightened. That's not discipline. David's voice stayed level, but his fists clenched. My father pulled out his phone. I'm calling hotel security. This man is trespassing. Please. David looked directly at me. Zainab, are you okay? I opened my mouth, but my mother cut in. She's fine. You need to leave before we press charges for harassment. 2 security guards arrived within minutes. My father met them at the door, speaking in low, urgent tones. I caught phrases like custody dispute, an unstable ex-husband. Emre released James, who stumbled back toward me. He smoothed his shirt and turned to the guards with a practiced smile. Officers, I apologize for the disturbance. This is my wife's ex-husband. He's been stalking our family for months. That's not true, David protested. He sends constant gifts, calls at all hours, even followed us on vacation. Emre pulled out his phone, showing photos of the birthday cards and presents David had sent. We've tried to be understanding, but he can't accept that she's moved on. The security guards exchanged glances. The taller one addressed David. Sir, are you a guest at this hotel? No, but then I'm going to have to ask you to leave. David held up his phone. I received a call from this room. There was screaming. Emre laughed. The children were playing. You know how kids get excited on vacation. Listen to it. David played the voicemail. 3 seconds of muffled voices, a cry, then silence. That could be anything, my mother said. Children, rough housing. The security guard shifted uncomfortably. Sir, this is a family matter. Without evidence of immediate danger, Layla suddenly tore away from my mother and sprinted to David, wrapping her arms around his legs. Daddy, please don't go. Emre hurt James. He hit Mommy. The room went silent. The security guards looked between us, uncertainty crossing their faces. My father reached into his wallet, pulling out several bills. He pressed them into the shorter guard's hand. Gentlemen, this is a private family matter. The child is confused and upset. We'd appreciate your discretion. The guards pocketed the money. Sir, the taller one said to David, you need to leave the property now. But my daughter just said, now sir, or we'll have to call the police. David looked at me desperately. I wanted to speak, to tell them the truth, but my mother's hand gripped my shoulder in warning. It's okay, sweetheart, David told Layla, gently untangling her arms. I'll be nearby if you need me. He looked directly at me. I'm staying at the Morton Lodge. It's just down the street, room 237. The security guards escorted him out. Layla ran to the window, watching until he disappeared from view. Silent tears streamed down her face. Well, my father said, closing the door. That was unfortunate. Emre turned to me, his eyes cold. You called him. After everything I've done for you, for this family. The children were scared, I whispered. The children need to learn respect. He grabbed my arm, pulling me to my feet. We're leaving first thing in the morning. That night, I lay awake listening to Emre's breathing. Every time I shifted, his arm tightened around me. Around 2 a.m., I watched him pick up my phone from the nightstand. The screen's glow illuminated his face as he scrolled through my contacts, deleting David's number. He checked my call history, my texts, my emails. Satisfied, he placed it back and pulled me closer. At breakfast, Emre announced we were cutting the vacation short. Family emergency, he told the waitress cheerfully. You know how it is. My parents packed efficiently while I helped the children gather their things. Layla kept glancing at the door, probably hoping David would appear. During the drive home, my mother sat between the children in the backseat. Every time Layla tried to speak, my mother would start singing Turkish songs or pointing out scenery. James stared out the window, unusually quiet. Emre drove aggressively, cutting off other cars and speeding through yellow lights. My father sat beside him, discussing business as if nothing had happened. 3 hours in, James announced he needed the bathroom. We pulled into a rest stop. I took both children's hands, but my mother followed us inside. In the stall, Layla whispered urgently, Mommy, I texted Daddy from my tablet. Before Emre took it away, I told him everything. My heart raced. When? Yesterday, during dinner. I hid in the bathroom. bathroom. My mother knocked on the stall door. Everything okay in there? Yes, Mom. Just finishing up. Back at the car, Emre held out his hand. Layla's tablet. Where is it? Layla's face fell. I don't know. He searched her backpack, then the car. Finding nothing, he grabbed her chin. Don't lie to me. I'm not lying, she cried. It's probably at the hotel, I said quickly. We can call when we get home. Emre's jaw tightened, but he let it go. The rest of the drive passed in tense silence. When we finally pulled into our driveway, I noticed new security cameras mounted above the garage. When did those get installed? I asked. Yesterday, Emre said. I had them put in before we left, for safety. Inside, more cameras dotted the corners of the living room and kitchen. Little red lights blinked steadily. Emre walked to the front door and produced a new set of keys. The locks had been changed. He handed one to my mother, one to my father, but none to me. You seem stressed, he said. Better if you don't have to worry about keys right now. My parents moved their suitcases into the guest room. We'll stay for a while, my mother announced, to help during this difficult time. The next morning, Emre drove us to the courthouse. David had filed an emergency custody motion. In the waiting area, I saw him with a woman in a navy suit. She had short gray hair and carried a thick folder. That's Susan Foster, Emre muttered. Best family lawyer in the county. Your ex is getting desperate. Inside the courtroom, the judge reviewed the motion while we sat silently. David's lawyer argued that the children were in immediate danger, citing the Lake Tahoe incident. Your Honor, she said, my client received a distress call from the mother's phone. When he arrived, he found Mrs. Yilmaz on the floor with visible injuries. Emre's lawyer, a smooth-talking man named Richard, stood up. Objection. There's no evidence of injuries. No police report, no medical records. Just the word of a man who's been stalking this family. The judge looked at me. Mrs. Yilmaz, would you like to address the court? I started to stand, but my mother's hand clamped down on my arm, her nails digging into my skin. I sat back down. My client is too distraught by her ex-husband's continued harassment to speak, Richard said smoothly. The judge frowned. Without concrete evidence of immediate danger, I cannot grant emergency custody. However, Mr. Davidson's pattern of behavior is concerning. Your Honor, Susan Foster interjected. My client has simply maintained court-ordered contact with his children. Every interaction has been appropriate and documented. Be that as it may, the judge continued, the family has expressed feeling threatened. I'm granting a temporary restraining order. Mr. Davidson must stay 500 feet away from Mrs. Yilmaz and Mr. Yilmaz. The current supervised visitation schedule remains in effect. David's face crumpled. Layla, sitting beside me, let out a small whimper. Outside the courthouse, Emre smiled triumphantly. That went well. That weekend, instead of David's scheduled visit, Emre announced he'd enrolled the children in a Turkish cultural center. They need to connect with their heritage. The center was 2 hours away. During the drive, James complained his stomach hurt. 20 minutes in, he vomited all over himself. Emre slammed on the brakes. You disgusting child. You did that on purpose. He's sick, I protested. He's manipulative. He'll sit in it. Maybe next time he'll control himself. For the remaining hour and 40 minutes, James sat in his own vomit, crying quietly. The smell filled the car, but Emre refused to stop. At the cultural center, I cleaned James in the bathroom while Emre checked them in for activities. The instructor, a stern woman named Mrs. Demir, barely looked at me. Mr. Yilmaz explained the situation, she said. Don't worry, we'll teach them proper behavior. When I picked them up 4 hours later, James had bruises on his arms, finger-shaped marks, purple and fresh. What happened? I asked Mrs. Demir. He was uncooperative during language lessons. Sometimes children need firm guidance. In the car, I turned to Emre. She heard him. Those are grip marks. He probably fell during activities. You're becoming paranoid. He glanced in the rearview mirror, just like your ex-husband. At home, my father was waiting in the living room. Emre tells me you caused a scene at the cultural center. James has bruises. Boys get bruises. You're overreacting. He leaned forward. Your husband is trying to give these children culture, discipline. You should be grateful. That night, I found Layla's tablet hidden behind boxes in the garage. The screen was cracked, but it still worked. Dozens of messages to David filled the screen. Photos of bruises, videos of Emre yelling, detailed accounts of every incident. David had screenshot everything. His responses were careful, reassuring. I'm documenting everything, sweetheart. Be brave. Help is coming. What are you doing? I spun around. Emre stood in the doorway, his face dark with rage. He crossed the garage in 3 strides and ripped the tablet from my hands. Without a word, he smashed it against the concrete floor. Pieces scattered everywhere. Get inside. Now. My parents were waiting in the living room, sitting on the couch like a tribunal. Zainab, my mother began, we're concerned about your mental state. You're acting erratically, my father added, questioning your husband, making wild accusations. Emre sat beside them. I've made an appointment with Dr. Yilmaz. He's a psychiatrist who specializes in postpartum issues. I don't have postpartum issues. James is 5. Delayed onset, Emre said smoothly. Combined with the stress of your ex-husband's harassment, Dr. Yilmaz can help. The next morning, they drove me to a pristine office building. Dr. Yilmaz, no relation despite the name, was a thin man with cold eyes. Your family is very worried, he said after they'd left me alone with him. Tell me about these paranoid thoughts. I'm not paranoid. My husband is hurting my children. He made notes. Do you have evidence? The bruises. Children bruise easily. What else? I told him everything. He nodded sympathetically, writing continuously. I see. And how long have you had these delusions? They're not delusions. Mrs. Yilmaz, your family described a pattern of erratic behavior. Calling your ex-husband, making false accusations. These are serious symptoms. He wrote a prescription. This will help with the anxiety and paranoid ideation. At home, Emre handed me the pills with a glass of water. My parents watched expectantly. I placed the pills in my mouth and took a sip. When they looked away, I pushed the pills into my cheek. Later in the bathroom, I spit them into tissue and flushed them. This became my routine. Pretend to take the pills, dispose of them later. But I had to be careful. Emre had started checking my mouth afterward. One night while everyone slept, I crept to the computer in Emre's office. My hands shook as I logged into my email. I found Bethany's contact from the school directory. She was Layla's teacher last year, and we'd become friendly during pickup. Bethany, I need help. My husband is hurting my children and I'm trapped. Please don't respond to this email. He checks everything, but please help us. I deleted the sent message and cleared the browser history. The next morning at breakfast, Emre announced he was keeping both children home from school. Why? I asked. The American has been hanging around the school. Security caught him in the parking lot yesterday. David wouldn't violate the restraining order. Emre's eyes narrowed. Defending him again? Maybe you need a higher dose of medication. My mother nodded. The children don't need school right now anyway. I can teach them here. Homeschooling? I felt the walls closing in. Just temporarily, my father said, until things calm down. But I knew better. This wasn't temporary. That night, I heard Emre on a phone call in Dr. Yilmaz's office. He spoke in rapid Turkish, but I understood enough. The paperwork is almost ready. Summer trip to Istanbul. Yes, both children. No, she won't be a problem. My blood ran cold. He was planning to take them to Turkey. I crept back to bed, my mind racing. Istanbul. If he took them there, I'd never see my children again. Turkish courts would favor him, especially with his family connections. I had to act fast. But how? Every move I made was monitored. The next morning, Emre left for work earlier than usual. My mother started teaching the children in the dining room, though it mostly consisted of Turkish language drills and lectures about respect. I watched James struggle to pronounce words while my mother's face grew increasingly frustrated. He's trying, I said softly. American children are lazy, she snapped. In Turkey, 5-year-olds speak 3 languages. I retreated to the kitchen, pretending to clean while I thought. Bethany hadn't responded to my email, but maybe she'd gotten it. Maybe she was already doing something. The doorbell rang, making me jump. My father answered it. Through the doorway, I saw a woman in a blazer holding a clipboard. I'm Eleanor Frederick from Child Protective Services. We received a concerning report about children at this address. My heart leaped, then immediately sank as my father father's charm kicked in. He invited her inside, all smiles and cooperation. Of course, we have nothing to hide. My daughter has been struggling with some mental health issues, but we're getting her help. Eleanor's eyes found mine across the room. I tried to communicate silently, but my mother quickly stepped between us. The children are doing their lessons. Would you like some tea? I need to speak with each child privately, Eleanor said firmly. It's protocol. My parents exchanged glances. Of course, my father said. Layla, come here, please. Eleanor shook her head. I'll need to speak with her alone. Perhaps in her room? The tension in the air thickened. My mother's jaw clenched, but they had no choice. Eleanor followed Layla upstairs while we waited in suffocating silence. 20 minutes later, they returned. Layla's face was unreadable. Eleanor interviewed James next. This time, she was gone for 30 minutes. When they came back down, James was clutching a small toy car Eleanor must have given him. I'd like to speak with Mrs. Yilmaz privately as well, Eleanor announced. She's on medication, my father said quickly. She may say things that aren't accurate. Eleanor's expression didn't change. Nevertheless, in the kitchen, she pulled out her notepad. Your friend Bethany contacted us. She also reached out to your ex-husband's lawyer. I understand there are concerns about the children's safety. My eyes filled with tears. They're planning to take them to Turkey. I heard Emery on the phone. Please, you have to help us. She made notes. The children did disclose some concerning information. James showed me bruises on his arms. However, your parents claim he's clumsy. He's not clumsy. The cultural center. I'll be following up with the center. In the meantime, I'm implementing a safety plan. The children must return to school immediately. They'll need to check in with the school counselor weekly, and I'll be making unannounced home visits. Relief flooded through me. It wasn't enough, but it was something. Eleanor stood to leave, then paused. Mrs. Yilmaz, if you ever feel you or your children are in immediate danger, call 911. Don't hesitate. After she left, my parents erupted. My mother grabbed my shoulders, shaking me. What did you tell her? What lies did you spread? Nothing. You're destroying this family, my father roared. After everything we've done for you. Emery came home early, his face thunderous. Someone from his office had told him about the CPS visit. He dismissed my parents to their room and turned to me, his voice deadly quiet. You think you're clever? Calling in authorities? He stepped closer. They found nothing, and now I know exactly what kind of person you are. That night, he moved my things to the guest room. You're clearly too unstable to share a bed with me. This is for your own good. He locked me in from the outside. I heard the click of the deadbolt and panic rose in my throat. The windows had been painted shut years ago. I was trapped. The next morning, he unlocked the door and acted like nothing had happened. Get the children ready for school. And remember, I'll be watching. At drop-off, I scanned the parking lot for David's car, forgetting about the restraining order. Other parents gave me strange looks. Word must have spread about CPS visiting our home. Layla's new teacher, Mrs. McCarlett, approached me. I wanted to let you know that Layla seemed very happy to be back. She mentioned she missed school. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak without crying. That afternoon, when I picked them up, the school counselor was waiting. Mrs. Yilmaz, I'm Freddie O'Charlotte. I'll be meeting with your children weekly, as arranged by CPS. I wanted to introduce myself. She seemed kind, with warm brown eyes and a gentle manner. If you ever need to talk, my door is always open. At home, Emery was furious about the counseling sessions. This is what happens when you involve outsiders. Now our private business is everyone's entertainment. My mother agreed. In Turkey, we handle family matters privately. This American obsession with therapy is sick, but they couldn't refuse. Eleanor had made it clear. Comply with the safety plan or face potential removal of the children. The next few days fell into a tense routine. School drop-offs and pickups were my only time outside the house. Emery had taken my car keys, so my mother drove us. She never let me out of her sight. One morning, while she was distracted talking to another Turkish mother, I noticed a familiar car in the visitor's lot. My heart skipped. David was there, just outside the 500-foot boundary, watching. Our eyes met for a brief moment before my mother yanked my arm. Don't even think about it, she hissed. That night, I overheard Emery on another call. Yes, the tickets are booked. June 15th, no return date scheduled. June 15th. That was only 3 weeks away. The next morning, something felt different. Emery was too cheerful at breakfast. My parents too relaxed. They were planning something. At school pickup, Mrs. McCarlett pulled me aside. I'm concerned about something Layla said in class today. She mentioned going on a long trip soon. My blood ran cold. What else did she say? Just that she was worried about missing the end of school. Is your family planning a vacation? No, I said quickly. There's no trip planned. Her eyes narrowed slightly, but she nodded. I see. Well, if plans change, please let the office know. In the car, I confronted my mother. Did you tell Layla about a trip? Children misunderstand things, she said dismissively. Emery mentioned possibly visiting Turkey someday. She must have gotten confused, but I knew better. They were preparing the children, making it seem like an exciting adventure. That night, locked in my room again, I desperately searched for a way to communicate with the outside world. The computer was in Emery's office. My phone was monitored. Then I remembered the landline in the basement. I waited until 3 a.m., then tried my doorknob. Sometimes Emery forgot to lock it when he was tired. Tonight, it turned. I crept through the dark house, avoiding the creaky floorboards I'd memorized over the years. The basement door was open. I descended carefully, feeling my way in the darkness. The old phone was dusty but still connected. With shaking fingers, I dialed the number I'd memorized from David's business card. Hello? His voice was thick with sleep, but instantly alert. It's me, I whispered. They're taking the children to Turkey on June 15th. I heard Emery booking tickets. Zainab, are you safe? Where are you calling from? The basement. I don't have long. Please, you have to stop them. I'll call Susan first thing. We'll file an emergency motion. Can you get any proof? Tickets? Emails? Anything? I'll try. But David, if they take them, they won't. I promise you they won't. Stay strong. Help is coming. A floorboard creaked above me. I hung up immediately and crept back upstairs. My door was still open. My room empty. I'd made it. The next morning, Emery studied me carefully at breakfast. You look tired? Not sleeping well? The medication. I lied. It gives me strange dreams. He seemed satisfied. But that afternoon, when I went to check the basement, the phone was gone. The cord had been cut and removed entirely. At school pickup, Freddie O'Charlotte was waiting again. Mrs. Yilmaz, could we speak privately? My mother started to object, but Freddie smiled pleasantly. It's regarding the children's academic progress. Just routine. In her office, Freddie closed the door and turned to me urgently. Your ex-husband's lawyer contacted me. She informed me about the travel plans. I need you to know that I've already reported this to Eleanor at CPS. Hope loomed in my chest. What can they do? We're working on it, but I need you to document everything you can. Any conversations about travel, any preparations you notice, can you do that? I nodded, tears streaming down my face. Also, she continued, I want you to know that both children have disclosed additional information during our sessions. We're building a case, but these things take time. We don't have time. June 15th, I know. We're doing everything we can. She handed me a tissue. Is there somewhere safe you could go? A friend? A shelter? He has my keys, my wallet, everything. My parents watch me constantly. She wrote something on a piece of paper and pressed it into my hand. This is my personal cell. If things escalate, call me. Day or night. Walking back to the car, I slipped the paper into my shoe. My mother was irritated by the delay, complaining the entire drive home about American interference. That evening, Emery announced we'd be having dinner guests. My cousin Kamal is visiting from Turkey. He's helping with some paperwork. The cousin arrived with a briefcase full of documents. They spoke in rapid Turkish, but I caught fragments. Passports, permissions, school records. After dinner, while the men talked business, I helped clear the table. In the kitchen, I noticed Kamal's briefcase was open. Inside, I glimpsed what looked like plane tickets. I glanced around. Everyone was distracted. Quickly, I snapped a photo with the kitchen tablet we used for recipes, then deleted it from the main gallery and hid it in a recipe app folder. What are you doing? I spun around. Layla stood in the doorway, eyes wide. Just cleaning up, sweetheart. My heart pounded. She came closer and whispered, I heard them talking about Turkey. Are we you really going? I don't know, baby. What did you hear? Emery said we'd love it there, that we'd go to a special school. Her voice got smaller. He said Daddy couldn't follow us there. I pulled her into a hug, fighting back tears. Listen to me. If anyone tries to take you anywhere, you scream as loud as you can. You tell everyone around you that you don't want to go. Promise me. She nodded against my chest. I promise, Mommy. The next few days were torture. Emery had become more vigilant, checking on me constantly. My parents took shifts watching me, but I managed to hide the tablet photo by uploading it to a cloud account I'd created under a fake recipe sharing profile. At school, I slipped a note to Mrs. McCharlotte explaining what I'd overheard. She nodded grimly and promised to pass it along. 3 days before June 15th, everything accelerated. Emery came home with new suitcases. My mother started packing the children's clothes while telling them stories about Turkish beaches and their cousins they'd meet. We're not going, I said firmly. Emery laughed. Of course we are. The children need to connect with their heritage. Don't worry, you'll love Istanbul. I'm not going anywhere with you. His face darkened. You'll do what's best for this family. Or would you prefer to stay here alone? I'm sure the courts would find that very interesting. A mother who abandoned her children. That night, I heard him on the phone with Dr. Yilmaz. Yes, increase the dosage. She's becoming more delusional. Might need inpatient treatment. They were planning to have me committed. Once I was hospitalized, they could take the children without any interference. The next morning, June 13th, I woke to find Emery standing over my bed. Get up. You have a doctor's appointment. I'm not going. He grabbed my arm, yanking me upright. Yes, you are. The children are already at school. My parents will pick them up later. I fought him, but he was stronger. He dragged me to the car while my parents watched disapprovingly. This is for your own good, my mother said. You're sick, Zainab. Let the doctors help you. At Dr. Yilmaz's office, I refused to go inside. Emery and my father practically carried me in. The receptionist looked alarmed but said nothing. In the office, Dr. Yilmaz was prepared with paperwork. Mrs. Yilmaz, your family is very concerned. They believe you need intensive treatment. I've arranged for a bed at an excellent facility. No, I struggled against my father's grip. I'm not crazy. They're trying to kidnap my children. Dr. Yilmaz sighed. This paranoia is exactly why you need help. Your husband is trying to take the children on a family vacation, and you've constructed an elaborate delusion. The door burst open. Eleanor Frederick stood there with 2 police officers. Mrs. Yilmaz, are you here voluntarily? She asked. No, they're trying to commit me so they can take my children to Turkey. Eleanor turned to the officers. I believe we have a situation here. Dr. Yilmaz stood up, indignant. This is a private medical appointment. You have no right. I have every right when there's suspicion of false imprisonment and child endangerment. Eleanor's voice was steel. Mrs. Yilmaz, would you like to leave with us? Yes, please. Emery stepped forward. She's mentally unstable. I have power of attorney. No, you don't, Eleanor said calmly. We've been investigating your claims. There's no legal documentation giving you that authority. The police officers positioned themselves between me and my family. One of them addressed me directly. Ma'am, do you want to press charges? I looked at Emery's furious face, my parents' shock, and felt years of fear crumbling. Yes, I do. Everything happened quickly after that. The police took statements. Eleanor called for backup from CPS. Within an hour, we were at the police station while officers went to collect my children from school. Susan Foster was waiting for us there, along with David. The restraining order prevented him from approaching me, but his relief was visible from across the room. We've been granted an emergency hearing, Susan explained. Judge Morrison will see us in an hour. The children are safe. They're with CPS temporarily until the judge makes a decision. I broke down completely, sobbing with relief and terror. Eleanor sat with me, explaining what would happen next. Your friend Bethany was instrumental in this, she said. She documented everything. The missed school days, Layla's disclosures, the travel plans. Mrs. McCharlotte and Freddie O'Charlotte provided additional reports. We've built a strong case. In court, the evidence was overwhelming. The plane tickets Kamal had brought were one way. The school records Emery had requested were transfer documents, not copies. Layla's tablet messages to David, which Susan had preserved, painted a clear picture of escalating abuse. Judge Morrison's face grew stonier with each revelation. When Emery's lawyer tried to argue this was a simple family vacation, the judge cut him off. One-way tickets to a non-Hague convention country with children who've disclosed abuse? That's not a vacation, counselor. That's attempted parental kidnapping. She granted me emergency temporary custody and issued a restraining order against Emery and my parents. David's previous restraining order was lifted immediately. Furthermore, the judge continued, I'm ordering the immediate surrender of all passports for Mr. Yilmaz and the maternal grandparents. They are not to come within 1,000 feet of the children or Mrs. Yilmaz. Emery erupted, shouting in Turkish and English about his rights, about American corruption, about how I'd regret this. The bailiffs restrained him as the judge added contempt charges to his growing list of legal problems. That night, I stayed in a hotel room paid for by a domestic violence fund Eleanor had arranged. The children were brought to me after dinner, and we collapsed together on the bed, crying and holding each other. Are we safe now, Mommy? James asked in a small voice. Yes, baby, we're safe. Layla looked at me seriously. Can we see Daddy tomorrow? Yes, sweetheart. You can see Daddy whenever you want now. For the first time in months, both children smiled genuinely. That night, they slept peacefully while I sat awake, still unable to believe we were free. 6 months after that terrifying June day, we had a different kind of court appearance. David and I sat together as the judge finalized our new custody arrangement, true joint custody, with the children free to move between both homes. I want to commend both parents, the judge said, for putting your children's well-being first. Mr. Davidson, your persistence in documenting concerns while respecting legal boundaries was admirable. Mrs. Yilmaz, your courage in breaking free from a controlling situation has given your children their lives back. Outside the courthouse, David turned to me. I know we can't go back to what we were, but I'm glad we can move forward as co-parents and friends. I nodded, watching Layla and James chase pigeons in the plaza. They needed both of us. They always did. I just couldn't see it before. You see it now. That's what counts. That evening, we all had dinner together at David's apartment. It wasn't a reconciliation. Too much had happened for that, but it was a new beginning. A different kind of family built on truth instead of control, choice instead of force. As I watched my children laugh freely, speak whatever language they chose, and express themselves without fear, I thought about my mother's threat to disown me. She'd said I was destroying the family, but she was wrong. I hadn't destroyed anything. I'd saved it.